interesting thing was, like, with a newborn, you could do one session, and that was the next morning they were told their baby was perfectly well and they had no problems. Everything had healed itself during the night, and the baby was ready to go home.
Wow. Amazing.
Hi, you're listening to Healing That Sticks, Changing the Paradigm Around Health and Healing. I'm Ameena, a medical intuitive and energy healer, and with me is Chuck Crook, a therapist and life force attunement practitioner. At this moment, when medical practices are both politicized and emotionally fraught, we think that energy medicine is the cure. So, hey, Chuck.
Hey, Ameena.
We were talking about energetic pathogens or energetic illnesses. And a pathogen is something that causes an illness or causes some sort of imbalance, but it comes from the outside. So that would be like a fungus, a bacteria, a mold, parasites, one of those kinds of things. And those can cause imbalances in the body that might cause allergies, rashes, fevers, infections. All of those things are caused by actual physical pathogens. But what we're noticing as we work, you and I, that there are also energetic pathogens. And when I work with the body code or the emotion code, those do come up as energetic pathogens. And the energetic pathogens are not an actual physical external thing that is attacking the body, but something that your body acts like it's got. So your body acts like it's got a parasite, or your body acts like it's got a bacteria. And we go back in there and ask your body to release or to deal with those things. And so we started working on your toenail fungus. And just tell me a little bit about that, or your experience with that.
Yeah, because I've tried all the remedies out there, been followed around on Facebook for 2 years with every doctor who's got the latest and greatest solution. None of them did anything. And so I was pretty like, okay, that's not working. Let me talk to Ameena about it. And after the session, I felt amazing, and I could feel, energetically, I was just like in a more joyful mood, and because something heavy had been lifted, and I felt like a flow in my field, and I could tell the nail was responding. But I believe it will take more than the one session to do it, and I know why it's been in there so deeply, and why it's going to take more than one session. Because the things you were clearing, it was like what you had, like an allergy that had been there for 20 generations. So I called my sister and I said, I'm getting my toenail fungus cleared. And by the way, there's this allergy that started with some previous generation around poison ivy. She goes, oh my God, you had horrible poison ivy as a kid. I'm like, right. And I said, she also said that your newborn granddaughter has the same allergy. And she's like, oh my God, my daughter has, eczema. We've all got skin stuff. And so it's like across the family tree, these allergies and these pathogens are like implanted in the energetic field of multiple, generations in the family. So I was like, oh, wow, it's not just a toe fungus. It's this fungus is holding all these different, I think you said a miasm, certain toxins. Anyway, it just went on and on.
Yeah, and it's interesting because a miasm is a term that they use in energy healing and homeopathy and a lot of kind of naturopathic healing. And what that refers to is something that you inherited. So let's say you had an ancestor. It's almost like talking about epigenetics. So let's say you had an ancestor, and we talked about it in what came up for you was about skin allergies and stuff. And I said, so you had an ancestor more than 20 generations back who experienced like an allergy to poison ivy, or had like a horrible poison ivy outbreak. And what that meant was that moving forwards, each generation, without the physical pathogen necessarily, had inherited a predisposition to skin issues, and that you all had super sensitive skin, and that the way in which your bodies generationally, not every single person, but in your family, generationally, you guys responded with a skin issue. And what showed up for me when I was looking at your body and looking at what was going on with the toe fungus intuitively, was that I felt like the fungus wasn't actually from something coming externally to the nail bed, though it may have been at one point. Like, I also saw you getting a pedicure and you were like, I haven't had a pedicure in years. And I was like, oh, well, maybe that's where you were first exposed to the actual pathogenic, the external pathogenic fungus. And that probably was cleared with one of all of the various things that you've done, because I know you've experimented with a lot of different things. But the energetic fungus wasn't cleared with that. So that's why you could clear part of it, but the actual energetic effects of it don't get cleared.
Okay, so I'm going to extrapolate. So you said off camera, you had said there's a relationship between like a fungus and potentially cancer. So what just came in my mind was, it's like, okay, so you could do chemo, you could do radiation and affect the cancer cell or whatever. But the energetic of the cancer, that's not necessarily the same thing. Is that what you're saying? Like if you think about it, the way you're thinking about my fungus?
Yeah. The interesting thing for me is that cancers, when I'm working, show up as fungus, as energetic fungus, which is sort of interesting because what is a fungus actually? I mean, you could call it like candida or something like that, candida is another interesting one because it is a systemic fungus, right? You get candida and it affects your whole body, and cancer as well, even though it tends to be in the way in which it shows up, like a tumor or something, in one place. Energetically, I mean, not only energetically, it's a systemic disease. So cancer, even though it shows up, you may have a tumor, like I had a tumor in my uterus, you may have a tumor in a certain part of your body, your breast or your throat or wherever, your prostate, but it actually is connected to the entire system. And that's why I feel like energetic funguses are, and especially skin things actually, but energetic funguses are like the hardest things to clear. Like you find so much stuff. And by stuff, I mean emotional stuff, trauma, stories, different exposure to different things stuck inside of fungus or held inside of fungus.
So energetically, what is the fungus? Is it like chemically, like what is it proteins? What's causing the fungus to even exist?
Well, in terms of when you say, is it proteins, an energetic fungus, I would say has no, you couldn't give it a physical description in a sense. Like you couldn't say, oh, does it have proteins or whatever? Because it has nothing, because it's energetic. Right. So a cancer, cancer cells are a particular kind of cells. They're anaerobic cells. They are your own cells. Actually, your own cells kind of gone rogue. They are not external cells. They haven't come from somewhere. They're your own cells being somehow reprogrammed to behave in a way that is detrimental to the body or antagonistic to the body. And so I wouldn't give that energetic fungus, I don't have any way to describe it except conceptually.
So you said adipose tissue, our fat holds hormones, allergic to being in charge of certain things, and my tissue body was holding these allergies. I was allergic to being blamed as a kid, or, you said as an adult, I didn't like being a boss at work. So I was allergic to these things, which is really interesting. I never heard these sort of emotional, mental preferences that we can actually develop an allergy to these things. And then energetically, they're held in this fungus.
Yeah. And so, in again, body code and emotion code, I found really interesting for informing this work. And body code and emotion code is the first place I ever heard about an energetic allergy. And for me, an energetic allergy, or my understanding of it, is more like a trigger. So an energetic allergy is, you may feel so uncomfortable about a certain thing that your body is allergic to that situation. So let's say you have an energetic allergy, or what they call an idea allergy, or even an idea intolerance. It's more like a trigger, so that when you find yourself in a situation where you're the boss, your body, your physical body, gets so uncomfortable with that situation that it may start producing all these physical reactions. And so I would say, like, I found myself in a job that was very high powered, very, where I was the boss of a lot of people and I had a lot of responsibility. And I realized that in that job, I developed tinnitus. I developed sort of other kinds of health disorders or whatever. And I would have put it all back to an allergy to maybe, for me, I would say, like, deceiving people or deception or whatever I felt about that job. Maybe it was also being the boss of people or whatever. I don't remember now, but all of those things resulted, like, almost like I was allergic to that job, and that resulted in all these physical symptoms.
So in the energy code work, the body code, emotion code work that we're talking about, this energy work on the body, on the fungus, in my case, could be cancer, could be whatever illness you're working on. So these triggers are in the energy field of the body, and in the work that you're doing, the body is telling you what exists in it that wants to be released. Is that simplifying it down?
Yeah, the body is telling me, or the body and the subconscious mind, which tend to work together, are telling me where the different pieces of the let's say the symptom, like the different pieces. So we would say the symptom is a toe fungus. So the body and the subconscious mind tell me all the different things that are connected to that particular symptom. We say the nail fungus. And I do have to say, like, we released a lot of stuff and a lot of old stuff.
I mean, this is the list of the things.
Whoa, you wrote it all down. Okay.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And it's, all of those different things. I mean, I was disappointed because I'm always disappointed in that, like, I'm so emotionally invested in people getting well and people getting, immediate results from their work. And I'm always trying to work on myself so that I get better, so that people get better faster.
So the healing sticks?
Not only that the healing sticks, but also that they do feel like they get better, some immediate results. Like, that's why it's that's why my work is such a pleasure. And so I was disappointed to see that your fungus did not go away after that session, or even really get affected. But tell me what you did feel and what you noticed.
Well, I intuitively didn't expect it to go away after one session. I expected that this is going to take multiple sessions, because what I learned in our session was there are all these trapped allergies and pathogens in the fungus. So I don't look at it as just a fungus anymore. Like, I look at my toenails, and if they're not perfect, I don't worry about it, because I was like, I know we're unraveling what is keeping this fungus in existence. So as a healer, as an energy healer myself, I don't sell silver bullets to people. I just don't. It'd be great. Sometimes it happens, but most of the time people need to continue doing the work to clear out, what has been put in there over lifetimes, and this lifetime, certainly. But what I felt was, I was at work the next day and I was like, why am I in such a good mood? Where did my grumpy Monday person go? Like, he's not here. I'm not grumpy because it's Monday. I'm not grumpy because they gave me, a lot of work to do today. I felt like joyful. I felt like an energetic lightness and a flow in my field. I felt just lighter because all this list of things that you cleared, they may be keeping that. I would assume it's not just affecting the toenail, it's affecting multiple systems in the body.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had one client who came to me because she had jaw pain, and we did some work, and this was years ago. And actually, there's another client like that. This was years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and she. At the end, she sent me an email and she was like, I have to tell you, I'm really disappointed with the session. And she was like, it was amazing. You brought up all of this stuff about my father, which she was angry at me for bringing that up because she said, that's not what I wanted to work on. And that's not what I came to you for. And she said, but I have to tell you, after the session, I was singing the rest of the day. I was so happy. I did this. I got all my stuff organized. I was better with work. I was, really in a really good mood and stuff like that. And she said, but I'm really angry because I came to you for jaw pain and I still have jaw pain. And, you brought up all this stuff about my father that I had never thought about, that I thought I had already resolved. And that wasn't what I wanted to work on. And I feel like she was like, I felt like that was really intrusive because I really just wanted to work on my jaw pain. And I at first, obviously being me, I was like, wait, all these good things happen and you're mad at me. And then also was reminded that the symptom that you have is not always what your body wants to work on, but 2, that there's so much that's in that symptom that sometimes it can't get cleared in one session. There's so much that your body is holding that comes out as jaw pain. And there's so much that your body is holding that comes out as fungus, that it's going to take multiple times to move through all of those things. And it's possible, that she had jaw pain for years and years, or it's possible, I don't know. And I had another client who came to me, I forget what, she had lower back pain, but she had really wanted to go back to making art. And she was working in the publishing world, but she really was an artist, and she had worked in publishing to make money, but she was really, kind of feeling bad about not making art. And we finished the session. And she went back and she texted me and she was like, I cleaned my studio and I did all this stuff and I started painting again and stuff like that. And she was like, but I'm frustrated because I thought this was a bodywork session. This was back when I was working more with the body, doing energy work less than on the phone. And she was like, I thought this was a bodywork session. I still have lower back pain, or I'm still dealing with whatever that thing is. But now, and again, I do find a lot of times it takes so long for this stuff to kick in. So sometimes like a year later, like now this woman, and we're not too much in touch. I just see her on Facebook from time to time, but she's a really successful artist. And she went back to being an artist again at 55 or 60. And she's recognized as an artist, and she's, again, back in that world. And so I find your body releases little by little by little, and then it's all gone. And you may not realize, because it's so subtle, that a year later, you may be in a totally different place.
Right.
Even
so
after one or 2 sessions.
Right. Even you could do the 2 sessions and not have the change you're looking for. And a year later, it happens. In other words, the body has its own sort of way of processing everything out. And there's just a lot going on in the unconscious that we are unaware of. But I feel like that with the toe fungus, it's a matter of work that I needed done. And the toe fungus is not attractive. So it's spurring me to pick up the phone and call you and say, hey, let's do this work, So there's a lot of dynamics at play here. It's like your soul has an agenda for your healing. Your body has an agenda for your healing. And you worked very diligently on me. That session was over an hour. We did a lot of water and then cleared the magnet over the head and clear. Is this cleared? Yes. Is that cleared? Yes. Right. And the body said that was it for today. Now, I'm sure when we do another session, the body's going to have, the next menu for us to play, to delve into. And that's good. I mean, I'm surrendered to it. And so my invitation is to those that are watching this, listening to this. It's like, come in without the expectation that it's an overnight silver bullet, magic bullet situation.
I wish I could clear things in a single session.
And sometimes you do. I mean, so but I mean, anxiety a lot of times can get cleared pretty quickly. So other things, and a lot of things you clear, not just those, but I feel like trust the process, trust your body, trust your body's wisdom.
Yeah. And it's really interesting, not only trusting your body's wisdom, but trust your own. It's almost like energetically, depending on the kind of person we are, there are certain things that we have a harder time letting go of. Like we dig in our heels subconsciously to not let go of certain beliefs, certain ideas. And that's why, like, I find it so amazing to work on animals and babies, because animals and babies, it can just be like a single session sometimes. Mm-hmm. You can do a single session and and especially a baby animal, super easy. Like I just had a friend contact me, in a bit of a state because she had a baby kitten and the kitten was unwell and they were at the vets and they couldn't get the vet, the emergency vet had a long waiting list. And so they were like, can you just work on this kitten, please? And I just worked on the kitten and it wasn't long. It was like maybe half an hour. And, the next morning, the kitten was fine. Like I asked the kitten, I was like, do you need to still go to the vet in the morning? Are you really ill? And the kitten was like, nope. And she sent me a little video of the kitten and was like doing its thing, like playing like kittens do, and just completely recovered overnight. And I've had that with newborns as well, where they are, they're being told, the mother's being told that the baby needs to go into the NICU or whatever, emergency thing for the newborn, and that they are not going to be able to, we don't know, its eyesight might be gone. It's going to be blind for the rest of its life, or it's she or he or they. But the interesting thing was, like with a newborn, you could do one session and that was the next morning. They were told their baby was perfectly well and they had no problems. Everything had healed itself during the night and the baby was ready to go home.
Wow. Amazing.
Again, like as adults, there's stuff that we fight to hold on to. We don't want to get rid of, or beliefs that we don't really want to get rid of.
Right. We are very stubborn in our unconscious.
Yeah.
So one last thing that's like sort of related to this, but not related to this fully, but I feel it's important, is in the session, you were saying that my dad showed up in the session clearing my toe fungus to say that he had wished he had played with me more as a child. And then when we talked about how you talked about little girls and little boys at kindergarten, how little girls are more developed and they're happy to be at kindergarten and play and all those sorts of things. And little boys are like crying, holding on to their mother, not wanting her to leave, doesn't want to stay by himself. And so I just feel like you said that boys don't get a lot of tenderness growing up. They're boys. They're supposed to be able to be rough and tumble. And dad's not playing with boys and things like that. It was tied into the fungus somehow around not getting that as a kid, and then that being a broader issue in the culture. So I wondered if you had anything to say about that.
I do feel it is funny because I feel like that's been coming up a lot with my male clients, that men and that really kind of crucial stage, which to me seems really crucial, which is, very early childhood. I was always struck by the fact that that young, I mean, two things struck me. One is that they talk about the way that the nervous system in female babies, toddlers, whatever, is more developed. And so that female babies, or babies that are born, come into this world as female, however they're called, are able to self-soothe in their cribs, whereas baby males are not as able to. It takes them a lot longer to learn, like baby females, when they wake up and they're crying in the night. Baby girls, when they're crying in the night, their nervous systems seem to teach them how to soothe themselves and put themselves back to sleep, whereas baby boys have a lot harder time. And I was telling you that story about going into kindergarten and watching, the first day of kindergarten is really traumatic for most little kids. And so the little girls, and they've all been to preschool, probably most of them, but the little girls go bouncing in the door and they go off to play with the various things that are in the kindergarten classroom, whereas the boys would be sitting there crying and holding onto their dads or their moms. And I remember watching a father talk to his little boy who was sobbing, and he was like, be a man, men don't cry, you're going to be fine. And I was like, he's 5. Why are you telling him to be a man?
To man up.
Yeah, man up. And also that whatever our society is, and I've only been, around preschoolers in the Western world and in India, but for the most part, people toughen up their little boys. And I'm like, oh, that's actually counterintuitive for what little boys need, because they actually need more softness and more tenderness at that age. And that they, the stuff that we learn in our early childhood about how our parents treat us is how we treat our own selves and our bodies and our awareness.
That's the connection right there. So that's the fungus connection. It's like how we internalize our attachment, or disorganized attachment, or into our own, they call it an introject. We introject that level of attachment, or lack thereof of attachment, or that lack of ability to self-soothe when the attachment isn't there. We introject that and we carry that around. And that's how, that is what you ended up clearing some of. That could, I guess, theoretically, that could then become a pathogen, or you call it a trigger.
A pathogen, yeah.
A pathogen or a trigger. That's how they get launched, so to speak.
Yeah. And I notice, like, with men and men's bodies, like, when men are, especially, let's say our age group or a little bit younger, that when they are not feeling good, they're like, oh, I need to do a cold plunge. I need to go. I was feeling really bad this morning, so I did a 15K run, or I don't know, not 15K maybe is too long, but whatever, a 5K run, or I did this thing or that thing.
I went to the gym and lifted for an hour.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not saying that you should not do those things, but or I'm on a water fast for the next 2 weeks or whatever. And I'm like, I'm not saying not to do those things, but do those things with a sense of tenderness for your body, so that you are doing those things as a sort of kindness to nurture your body and help your body. And you're like, here, like you might do with a child, you might say, here, let's try this, and try and distract them and try and do this, as opposed to punishing your body for feeling ill. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of men spend so much time in their lives punishing themselves for, like, oh, how dare your body express vulnerability or weakness. Here, let me slam you in a cold plunge. Let me make you run. Let me starve you to death so that you understand how you're meant to behave. Like, it's an old school idea.
It's tough love, spiritual tough love, so to speak.
Yeah. And I feel like, for me, my understanding, and again, I could be limited in that because I don't inhabit a male body. But my understanding is part of the reason that men are so harsh, or can be so harsh, with the people around them is because they haven't had time to both experience that tenderness for themselves, that gentleness, that nurturing. And so that informs how your perspective and how you interact with other people and other other beings on the planet.
Yeah. So I encourage anyone who's curious about any of this to get a session with Ameena on the body code, the emotion code, and experience releasing some of these toxicity pathogens and allergies, or whatever your version of that may be. It may not be look anything like my session, but your body will tell her what it is that is holding back that tenderness, that ability to self-soothe in your unconscious.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the great majority of my clients are women. So I do feel like
there's a whole group out there that are untapped men.
Yeah, who kind of deserve to go back and like look at their body. I think that, again, as women, and especially as we get older, we get more and more connected to our bodies and our intuition. Whereas men seem to, not all the time, but a lot of times get more and more disconnected. And so I feel like as a male person, or person who came into this world with a male body, you deserve to go back and treat yourself with some tenderness, go back and look at those things from early childhood and release those things from early childhood. We can't release everything. And I find that a lot of times, or so many times for us, for the two of us, that after I work on a person and they've released all this stuff, that if they then work with you in kind of calling in whatever else is happening in their field, or just becoming present to what else is coming up in their field, that allows for such a big release. That can be so much bigger than what you would just get. Mm-hmm. I feel like when the two of us work together, we've created massive changes in people, which, again, not always a total release of the symptoms. So sometimes, like we had shared clients where they had cancers that had come back that are totally clear now. They have no evidence of disease. We've had clients where they've had continual issues with one thing or another, let's say withdrawal from like benzos or other kind of anti-anxiety medications, and that they no longer, they're kind of back in their lives in a lot of ways. I mean, not to say that all their problems are solved, but those issues tend to get resolved when we work together.
I was thinking about, I went to see a psychic healer when I was young, like 30 years ago or whatever. And my mom had my sister, myself, my dad, we all went to see Gloria Karpinski in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. She wrote some books. She was well known, really good. And she told me 30 years ago, hey, there's this thing that's in your consciousness that you really need to clear that has to do with bottom lining yourself. In other words, you look at a situation, a scenario, and your mind comes up with, well, what's the bottom line situation here? Which is very male. It's almost like Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, like computer, pop, 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 bottom line, like danger, run, or, hit or whatever. But it's like that male need to like suss up a situation, with your cognition, to be sort of like avoid the dinosaur, the caveman, just fight or flight is what I'm trying to come up with. Yeah. The whole fight or flight thing to survive. Our survival mechanisms are so embedded for so many generations, so many lifetimes. And she's like, you're here to clear that this life. And I feel like as a result of the fungus clearing that you did, and a lot of those pathogens, I am chipping away at that piece. I feel like that voice, that bottom line voice, and the sort of the background that's like always sizing everything up, rather than just let me be in life and enjoy the moment of life without having to think ahead of myself. I feel like that pattern is dissolving, breaking up. So I feel like, I guess what I'm saying is, I feel like the work that you do, it chips away at some of the karmic stuff. And when you take sort of the foundation that some of the pieces, and you heal those pieces, then there's much bigger tectonic plates that can move.
Yeah. When you get rid of emotion and trauma, and not, again, you never totally eliminate it, but when you eliminate a lot of emotional stuff that's stuck, that allows you to move, as you were saying, to the higher level where you can move huge karmic things, where you can move, stuff that's been stuck in your family for generations, and move it for your entire, your ancestors and your future descendants.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. That's what's happening here in this latest round that we had. So have a great week. We will see each other next week for another one of these pods.
Yeah. Thanks so much for listening.
Yes. Thank you.